greatest characters ever and one of the most popular singers of our time. And I say our time because his time is past. And I don't want to break that up.
welcome to Ray at Midnight.
and welcome, Bruce Belland.
It begins.
Yeah. Good to see you, pal.
Hey, pal.
You know,
we finally did it, huh?
Finally got it after all these years. Here we are out at Bruce's place. We normally shoot in the studio, but we thought it would be great to be out here where the man himself creates all of his crazy things that he does. And anyway, tell me, how did you get into the music business, which I think is amazing? I mean, I have some idea, but I only know your California side. But then I found out later, after the producers gave me all the information on you, that you were really born in Chicago. Is that right?
And raised in Chicago for the first 10 years of my life, yeah. And my mom, I'm a preacher's kid. So my mom led the choir. She was a vocal coach and a choir director and a very good gospel singer on her own. She'd been on a big gospel radio show out of Chicago that my dad was the host of as the preacher.
Really?
So that's how they met. Girl singer meets preacher boy, and they get married. And my first solo I sang at age 4 in the church choir was God Bless America. I got a stick of chewing gum for singing it. Wow. And I said, hey, there's money here. A stick of chewing gum. This is great.
Well, the thing is, I mean, you're telling me that you come from a preacher family.
Yeah.
Well, being in Hollywood and everything else is not quite like, being in the preacher's family. So what changed your mind that you did not want to be a preacher?
Oh, mainly being a preacher's son. Made me see how, my dad, even later in life when I became successful as a singer, was always, and he made no bones about it, was somewhat disappointed that I wasn't singing for the Lord. I was out there saving souls with my dad, and I'm singing pop music. Well, that was borderline okay with him. My mom loved it. She was a super music fan, loved movie stars, loved the show business atmosphere. So she coached me, and my dad would say, why isn't he coming with me at the missionary meeting,
I imagine you carried the book around, the good book around all the time.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was a rebel. I really, but that experience at age 4, singing God Bless America, getting a stick of chewing gum, and I decided I don't want to be a fireman, I don't want to be a fighter pilot, I don't want to play shortstop for the Cubs. I want to be a singer. At age 4, my older brother, who's 5 years old, said, a singer, you're 4 years old. I said, I'm going to work it out. Don't worry, I got plans. And the next thing I know, how do you do that in Chicago, become a hit record artist? Well, you know what you do? You get lucky, and your family, when you're age 10, moves to Hollywood.
Well, that's an amazing story because Chicago is a deep-rooted music center at the time.
But in the recording business in the 50s, it was not happening.
No, it was mainly, in those days, they called them race records.
That's right, R&B,
R&B stuff that you had there. But moving to Hollywood, did that change you right away? Where did you move to?
We moved to West Hollywood.
Well, what was the reason? That was,
my father accepted the challenge of restoring a congregation at the West Hollywood Community Church that had sort of fallen into disactivity and was not being very productive. They weren't drawing many people, and they heard about him in Chicago because he was a big hit on the radio in Chicago. And they made him an offer to move to L.A. He accepted the offer. We moved to West Hollywood Community Church. Within a year, he had the church up on his feet and was packing the place.
Wow.
And I'm singing solos in the choir. I'm singing at funerals with my dad. I'm singing at weddings with my dad. So my vocal training early on was from my mom.
You were doing funerals as well?
Oh, yeah. Oh.
Anybody I know?
There'll be light in the sky from the palace on high when I come to the end of the road. Sweet relief from all care. We'll be waiting me there. Oh, they loved it. So that's how I learned how to sell a lyric with all kind of sincerity, really seriously. I knew the message for these people at a funeral was the words. They want to hear about streets of gold. They want to hear about hearts. They want to hear about reuniting with their loved ones who've gone on before. Well, I could sell that. I knew how to sell that. I was a ham from the start. So, my dad and I had a hit combination there for a while. As I said, Some dads take their kids to ball games, you know, we're fishing. Dad and I buried people. That was what we did as a father-son team, you know.
Well, I'm sorry I asked that question. I
have no short answers.
No.
You'll learn I have no short answers.
I know. I knew you had all sorts of, a background past, but, because your late partner and my late partner, Ed Cobb, used to tell me a lot of stories about you.
Yeah.
And so while you were there, in Hollywood, you were going to school there. Were you in grammar school at that time? Or
yeah, when we first moved out, I was in West Hollywood Grammar School, which is where, when I was 11 years old, I met a man that would become my partner and collaborator for years, Glenn Larson. He went to West Hollywood Grammar School. I met him on the playground one day, and somehow we got talking about our love of show business and that we wanted to be singers.
Wow.
At 11 years of age, we knew that. And later in Hollywood High, when I wanted to form a vocal group, the first guy I went to was Glenn Larson.
Well, let me just let everybody know Glenn Larson was probably one of the all-time great TV producers of our time.
Yeah. Stole most of his ideas from me, but we will come to that.
I remember a story with Glenn when I first met you guys. Was in Alabama. And I remember going to Glenn's room. He had the typewriter there. He was immediately on top of it. He says, I'm writing this whole thing about this guy who's... he could run with all sorts of information. I'm going like, he left me a little buzzed there for a moment. Then I went back to Ed Cobb's room, who later on was my partner. And Ed says, he's writing something or whatever, and there's Ed with his ukulele pulling and I'm writing a song himself. But anyway, not to veer off anything like that. So when you guys got together there, were you thinking about, when you say you wanted to form a group?
Yeah.
Did you, immediately say, let's go form the group? Did you start singing together?
Well, Bing Crosby.
At that age, how old were you?
Well, Bing Crosby was my first idol, so for many years I wanted to be a singer like Bing Crosby. And then when I was 15, I used to... Yeah. When I was 15... I would wait till my parents fell asleep at night. We lived literally 2 blocks off the Sunset Strip. When they fell asleep, I'd sneak out the back door and I'd go up and sneak in backstage at all the nightclubs and listen to the acts. I heard Frankie Lane, I heard Tony Martin, I heard Sammy Davis Jr., Rosemary Clooney. One night I snuck in and I heard the Mills Brothers. That was it. I want to sing in a harmony group. There's something to me, I've said it many times, I'd rather spend 5 minutes singing harmony than an hour singing by myself. There's something about being wrapped in those voices.
I agree.
And the camaraderie, it's just a great feeling. So immediately I realized I want to record in a vocal group that sings harmony. Hollywood High School has a talent show. 35 girls, not one guy, show up to audition for that talent show. And that was a big deal. Hollywood High's talent show, the talent scouts would come.
Yeah, that was the big big thing here
in
Hollywood at the time, along with the drugstore that I
So I go to Glenn and I say, 35 girls, no guys, come on, we got to get in on this. We grabbed, at that point, for that very, very first show, 2 guys out of the choir that did not become preps ultimately. But that very first show, we had these 2 other fellas from the choir. We sang Shaboom. The place went crazy. We absolutely stole the show. Next thing I know, we're being booked for barbecues and beach parties and sock hops. We can't get a recording contract, but we're working a lot. We're making $75 a gig. We buy matching jackets, which is a big deal.
Yeah.
And so
at the Academy, probably.
Yeah. Academy wore clothing. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we struggled and sang for everything we could get.
But no funerals.
I'm sorry.
No funerals.
Well, now and then my dad would ask me to, do a funeral with him. Oh boy, memories. Anyhow, we tried to get a recording contract for about a year or so, and through various events and circumstances, it never quite worked out. And then I ran into a personal manager, totally by chance, who it turned out, he didn't tell me at the time, managed Les Paul and Mary Ford.
Ah, yes, I knew Les and Mary Ford.
He had contacts at Capitol. I showed him our demo tape, which I had gone up and down Sunset with for weeks, and nobody would listen to it. He listened to it. He said, I've got a few friends I think might be interested. Can I keep this tape? I said, great. This is Monday.
Yeah.
Friday, he calls me and says, as I'm heading out the door to go to my job in Beverly Hills, driving a delivery truck for a flower shop, okay? My day job. He calls and says, yeah, Capitol Records heard your tape. They want to sign you. So that was the beginning. That's how it happened.